Three minority MPs file injunction against e-levy implementation at Supreme Court. Police arrest 8 suspects in connection with alleged poisoning of Kulpon River in Upper West region. Street lights at major intersections broken down or malfunctioning. Patrick Achake reappointed as Prime Minister of Côte d'Ivoire just a week after he resigned from the post. It's News Hour live on GBC News and News and Governance channel. My name is Micheline Taka. I am Rahmatu Mahmoud Jawando with Robert Frimpon Manson to do the sign language. Good evening. Be reminded that we are also live on GTV and on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. The minority leader in Parliament, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, and 2 other minority MPs have filed an injunction at the Supreme Court against implementing the electronic transfer levy, e-levy. Mr. Idrisu Mahama Ayariga and Samuel Ukujetua Blakwa want the court to restrain the government through the Ghana Revenue Authority from putting the e-levy into effect pending the final determination of their substantive suit, which is challenging the constitutionality of its passage by Parliament. The GRA is scheduled to begin implementation of the e-levy on May 1, 2022.
Filed through lawyer Mr. Godwin Tamaklo on Tuesday, April 19, 2022, argues that millions of citizens and other people will suffer irreparable harm if the e-levy act is not put on hold and the court determines that its passage was unconstitutional. According to the plaintiffs, the GRA will be unable to reimburse the millions who have paid the e-levy, while the 1992 Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, would have been undermined. The plaintiffs have raised an allegation of a breach of the 1992 Constitution in the passage of the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2022, Act 1075, in order to avoid an incalculable damage, injury and inconvenience not only to the people of Ghana, but as well as undermining the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. The plaintiffs say justice of the case demands that executing the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2022, Act 1075, is put on hold until the final determination of the instant suit.
Eight suspected persons have been arrested by the police in the Upper West region for allegedly poisoning the Kulpon River, which runs through the Gbele Resource Reserve. The situation has left some of the fish dead, while the others are struggling to survive. Upper West Regional Correspondent Swal Abdul Wahab, who may accompanied officials of the Fisheries Commission and the Food and Drugs Authority on an inspection tour of parts of the river, reports that communities around the reserve have been cautioned against buying smoked fish from fishermen in the area.
Management of the Gbele Park in the Sisala West district of the Upper West region says this river, which runs through 4 districts in the region, has been poisoned by some fishermen. These fishermen have picked up camps and they harvested the fish and took some away. The management says the situation is a serious source of worry to them, and they cautioned the fishers that the law will catch up with them.
It's around the ground belt where the water have been fragmented into pools due to the seabed. The riverbed is of sea sand. So that was where some communities members came in to do some poisoning using some agrochemicals, ladake, and we tried to apprehend them. Unfortunately, they escaped because they were at the opposite side of the river bank. And our men retrieved some of the cash they have abandoned, and then a motorcycle from this crime scene.
The regional director of the Fisheries Commission is equally worried about the situation.
We think it's devastating because we have other lower organisms like the mussel that are filter feeders. We have other fingerlings that have been spawned and then they are trying to survive. And already they have challenges of water current and other things. There are other organisms that also feed on them to reduce their population. So this is actually reducing the productivity of fisheries in the reservoir and other aquatic organisms. This is a reserve, and normally for such a place, we can get other fish species that we do not have in our reservoirs from them.
Management of the park says last month a culprit was caught with the same offense, and when he was taken to court, he was fined just 2,500 Ghana cedis. And for management, they think it is an incentive for the fishermen to continue to perpetrate this act. The management is appealing to communities around to be on the lookout for anyone who will come to them with smoked fish for sale. Reporting for GBC News, Swala Abdulwahab, Bele Park.
Broken traffic lights contribute largely to road accidents and pedestrian knockdowns in the capital. The problem of faulty traffic lights in Accra is alarming. Lights at major intersections are either down or malfunctioning. On GTV Breakfast, panelists discussed the need for duty bearers to treat this problem as a matter of urgency.
I think it is unacceptable for us to continue to have traffic lights not working for 2 weeks because of the dangers ahead. But I also think that chief executives would have to be up and doing. They have to set up. You don't need the president to come and fix this light. The whole structure about urban road management is such that in certain cases it has been decentralized. There is some element of decentralization, but local governance means you, the chief executive, who is the district president, must take charge. If these things are not working, work with the appropriate institutions to make sure that things are working. So here, I will charge the minister responsible for local government and the chief executives to make sure that these things happen. If the chief executive of that area, the chief executive of the Adenta Municipal Assembly, the chief executive of AME, all of them sets up and say that, look, urban roads, those responsible for this traffic light, it would have to work. It will work.
These are real-time issues we have to solve. We should even take a day to solve, okay? But is it, like Doc mentioned, it's just about responsibility. Ensuring that whatever is under our care, you ensure that it's executed very well. Traffic light,
it's so
today,
basic, man. It's so basic.
Should we be discussing traffic light when we have people who are responsible to ensure that it works 24/7? No. No. And that is Malam Junction. Look,
I'm sure you can cite other hotspots.
I can
The UPSA junction. UPSA
That's where I'm
junction.
coming from.
This morning when I was coming, it was not working.
Over the weekend, intermittently. Now, it's you always will encounter a dysfunctioning traffic light. Even UPSA junction, and that is an area you have. It's an educational hub of Accra.
There's a lot of movement there.
A lot of movement there, and every now and then cars are breaking down there. There's collision all over. Kavi, it's just about responsibility, ensuring that whatever has been put in under our care, you ensure it is done.
Months ago, GBC News carried a report about the malfunctioning of many street lights in Accra. The result is that the streets are pitch black at night. Even on some major streets, street lights are a physical, psychological deterrent to criminal activity and promote security. They make the public feel safer, especially at night, while giving the streets the needed illumination for good visibility. Many residents of the capital are concerned that the darkness has swallowed up security. They suggest that with the abundance of sunlight, solar-powered lights may be the way to go.
Street lights promote security and improve safety for drivers, riders and pedestrians. Many lamps in use today have light-sensitive photocells that activate the lamp automatically when needed and when the clouds gather before the rains. In many parts of Accra, majority of the street lights are not functioning properly, and this is a danger to many road users. This is the Ring Road Central at 7 p.m. and the streets are dark because the street lights are not working. Drivers on this road often use their high beams to safely navigate through the dark. It is very difficult to spot any object ahead. Pedestrians are also at risk because they could easily be knocked down by a vehicle or even attacked by criminals who take advantage of the situation. A number of hit-and-run accidents have been recorded on the stretch. A drive through North Ridge and areas around Accra Girls Senior High School are similarly without lights. The pitch-dark streets tell it all. Heading towards Ridge Hospital is also very dark, and with no pathways or sidewalks, many feel unsafe. The only properly illuminated building is the hospital and some other functional story buildings that provide some amount of lighting. Some ceremonial roads in the capital suffer similar fate, and it's a worrying situation to those who use the streets. A drive through the ministries, the Professor John Evans at Mills High Street, Antema Station area, shows a mixed situation with and without lights. Accra by night, and this is the road when there is no vehicle on the street. Pitch dark. At least the headlights on our car provided some illumination when it was turned on, but that is not enough to protect the road user. A driver, Mr. Joshua Essien, was not happy about the situation because electricity consumers are charged a street light maintenance fee for every single purchase.
You purchase electricity credit, they deduct street lights, a whole lot. And at the end of the day, you go around, even in the station here, there's no lights around.
While some Ghanaians are calling for proper maintenance of these valuable national assets, others are also proposing the use of solar to power these street lights. A businessman, Mr. Paul Hosu, shared a few thoughts.
Sometimes in the night when you are crossing the road, you can see the light of the car, which is not far or which is close. Meanwhile, it's not what? Close. Sometimes some drivers go with high light, so sometimes you don't know when or how or the distance between you and the car coming.
The only source of lighting on the graphic road through to the Obechabi-Lamte circle are lights from oncoming vehicles. Mr. Gabriel Kutogiba explained that the lights have never been replaced since they stopped working some months ago.
The whole place is very dark. I don't know what to say, but it's very shameful. Look, we have street light. Is it solar or what? People pay money to do all these things, but they are not functioning.
The poor lighting at night is a troubling situation for many. They question how long the streets of Accra will continue to be without any lights. Residents hope the streets of Accra will be properly lit at night to keep all safe and meet the standard of many developed countries. OwusuAjman, GBC News, Accra.
The Public Accounts Committee of Parliament says it is disappointed that the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation is not airing its Tamale sitting live when proceedings started today in the Northern Regional Capital. The chairman of the committee, Mr. James Kluche Afedi, expressed his displeasure.
The Public Accounts Committee is currently holding public hearings in Tamale. The committee is looking into 4 of the Auditor General's reports on some institutions in the 5 regions of the North. The committee's sittings in the first quarter of 2022 were shown live on GBC. The chairman of the committee, Mr. James Kluche Aveji, was therefore disappointed that same could not be done by the public service broadcaster for the Tamale sitting.
Initially, we were paying for the coverage, but later the state broadcaster, which is a GBC, will have to cover the proceedings of the arms of government at no cost. So we have never been paying, but the recent development is that we should pay for the coverage, and we don't think that is proper. We are urging GBC to change their stand and come to cover our proceedings, because the people of Ghana need to know what is happening with state resources.
However, piling debts and the need to clear same makes it difficult to cover all events that should be aired live, including the PAC's sittings. On the opening day of sitting, Mr. Aveji cautioned the institutions involved to be honest to avoid perjury. The committee is expected to sit from Tuesday, April 29, 2022 to Saturday, April 23, 2022.
You're watching News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. About 130 acres of government land at Mempasim, a suburb of Accra, have been encroached upon. The government has engaged the services of Messrs. Anok Holding Limited to recover the said land and protect the site. The Ministry of Land and Natural Resources has warned that any person who purchases or develops a plot of land at the said site does so at his or her own risk.
Residents here have heard that government intends to reclaim the unencumbered portions. They are rushing to develop the land. So we are here just to stop them from developing the unencumbered portions. Then everybody that has got property here is also advised to go to Lands Commission to regularize. I want to say emphatically that nobody is touching anybody's building here. Nobody is supposed to touch completed buildings that people are living inside. No. But if you see people doing skirmishes of foundations and what have you, we're pulling everything down. And fence walls around unencumbered portions of the land, we're pulling that one too down. I will advise the public, especially those who have properties here, not to resist this. Because I've already heard people have gone for Asafo or Langards to prevent the exercise. They should desist from it so that all of us can live in peace over here. As to the claim that people say they have title to the land or documentation, I think the only place to verify these claims will be where? Lands Commission. You and I cannot verify this documentation. But I have clear directive from the Commission that here, nobody has documents.
The 7 suspects arrested for allegedly stealing cattle from the Zakole community in Yendi in the northern region following the killing of some 7 persons in that community last week have been found guilty of the offense and fined 4,200 each on day 1 of the court sitting on the case. All 7 suspects pleaded guilty to the charge of conspiracy to steal and stealing. They were therefore convicted on their own plea, despite pleading with the court for forgiveness that they will never repeat such an act. The court fined each of the accused persons 4,200, that is 1,200 for the crime, and 3,000 Ghana cedis as compensation to the affected persons, or in default to serve a prison term of 9 months. On GTV Breakfast Show on Tuesday, an executive director of the Center for Financial Literacy Education Africa, Mr. Peter Asari, educated the public on why savings is very critical and must be taken seriously. He said once the person is earning, it is important that individual work towards his or her retirement, protect oneself from debts and bankruptcy, and how best to manage one's finances when issues arise.
Financial literacy has to do with a set of knowledge, skill set, attitude, and behavior on how best one can manage his financial resources. You have to be intentional about it. You have to apply it in your everyday life decisions. So someone can be a lawyer, someone can be a doctor, but does not have the essential principles to managing his personal finance. So it entails an individual being intentional about it and taking the right decisions when it comes to his or her money. When you talk about the principles, you can talk about paperwork. You have to organize your paperwork. From the very day you were born.
Which paperwork are you talking about?
From the very day you were born, you were given a birth certificate. Since that day, your paperwork has been increasing. You engage in a financial transaction, like open an investment account, you are given an investment certificate. You buy a land, you are given a contract. You rent an apartment, you are given an agreement. So all this paperwork needs to be organized in a way that when something happens, you can get access to this document. And you can also talk about your net worth. You have to analyze your net worth. You can talk about cash flow. You can talk about
the net worth. What is it?
It's your actual financial position. So when we take your assets, the things you own in life, and we take your financial obligations, that's your liabilities, the difference is your net worth, your actual financial position. And then we can talk about cash flow, your income and your expenses. We can talk about knowing about your employment benefit. What are the benefits your employer gives you? You need to be aware of it. You can talk about planning for financial independence and retirement, planning for major expenditures. Before you buy a car, there should be some forward thinking before you even purchase that car. You can talk about taxes, insurance, investment, estate and gifts planning. So these are the elements that comes together to form financial literacy. We are working with educational institutions to start inculcating some of these principles into the academic syllabus. And in the foreign world, financial literacy is on the rise, and it is now coming to our world. So we want to encourage everyone to get involved so that we can teach these principles to every single Ghanaian.
The people of Wiamase in the Setre South district in the Ashanti region have been reminded to rekindle their communal and self-help spirit in initiating development projects in their various communities at a formal opening of a $500,000 project built by citizens of the town in the diaspora. The Chief of Staff at the Presidency, Mrs. Akosia Frema Osei Oparis, said this will support government's effort at spreading socio-economic development to the local level across the country.
Wiamase, an ancient town in Ashanti, is famous partly due to the exploits of legendary Okomfo Anokye. Many citizens from here have traveled abroad in search of greener pastures. These citizens have formed a union not only for solidarity and socialization purposes, but importantly to pool their resources to support socio-economic development projects at Wiamase, their hometown. Over the years, the town has undertaken different projects for the citizens back home. On the list, an ambulance to the local hospital, water and sanitation, as well as school structures. The construction of the two-story Learning Development Center complex has a well-furnished conference center as well as a community library, which has offices and some books. The facility, which also has a standby regular water supply system, cost the group about $500,000 from the voluntary contributions of the members. The community is now expected to generate revenue from it for its maintenance. A grand debate to unveil the newest project, the Community Learning Development Center, was organized. A woman who is now incapacitated due to a road accident and also benefited from the charity of the group was at the event to publicly thank the team for assisting her during her time of need. The chairman of the WACO Citizens and Diaspora, Dr. Daniel OwusuAjman, said the group will use the facility to advance the development of particularly children with special needs who come from the town. The chief of WACO, Nana Boakye Yadom, thanked the group on behalf of the people. The guest speaker was the Minister for Education, Dr. Oseyaw Educhum. He advised pupils and students to make good use of the center.
And now I'm penning another danko kufuado adaroma. Sabi ufri ya massacre with me copia Edisade College, with me copia at Timota, with me copia and fancy pim. Moko schools are yaya person yan say let me acomida. Now Moko schools when ye namo de baba guamo mine. Abe peja or may amo may akonanim.
The Chief of Staff at the Presidency, Mrs. Akosia Frema Oseo-Pari, who is from the town, commended the diasporan team highly and also pledged her support while encouraging other Ghanaians abroad to learn from the group's exemplary commitment. She said the youth must take advantage of the government's Youth Start program to be funded through revenue from the e-levy.
Youth agenda. Sa Youth Start no. Eba mamun famwati kontre you sato obiara wo hyehyɛ wo niema na wo so wadwene ti sɛ de yenuanom mo bɔ ya set mu din Kofi Adadi din mo bɔ set mat mo bɔ despite wo mo nyina dean business anu you start no eye business ti wo wadwene kakra bia Yebepiao na watumi anya foto yebenya wontete na saa foto no wode akwahye adwuma ase.
The WACO Citizens in the Diaspora presented citations and other awards to selected personalities, including the Chief of Staff, recognizing and appreciating their respective contributions to the progress of the committee over the years.
Ever heard of Achake or even had a taste of it? Do you know what goes into the preparation of this finger-licking dish? GBC News takes you along the western coastline from Accra to Enyinase and AB Bukazo, two communities in the Elembele districts of the Western region, where Achake remains a favorite and features prominently on menus in restaurants and possibly daily in homes.
Achake, 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 Achake. However you call it, it's a traditional Ghanaian meal loved by many and is popular with the people of Ghana's western region, especially the Nzimes. For they say, if you are in Nzima and you don't eat Achake, then you're not a true-blooded Nzima. Achake is eaten for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even at midnight. Its accompaniment is soup or stew, but has gained popularity with grilled tilapia, fried fish, meat, or grilled chicken. To begin with, the cassava is peeled, grated, and kept in jerry cans and bowls and moistened with lots of water for properly wet grains. After that, the cassava pulp is kept for 3 days for fermentation. The cassava pulp has to be fermented because it is from there that one gets the real taste of the achake. It also brings out the sweetness of the cassava. The cassava is now transferred into sacks, which are tied and kept under this machine, which presses out all the excess water and also removes the starch. The cassava pulp is later processed manually by sieving and rubbing in circular motion in the palms to create smooth round grains, after which it is dried in the sun for about an hour. At this stage, the achake is steamed under medium heat on fire for between 5 and 7 minutes. Some salt is then added for taste. This is the final product of achake.
Democratic Congress Professor Nana Jane OwusuAjman has shown some love to a group of vulnerable women from selected constituencies in Accra. She says this is her widow's mite as they perform an act of deep personal worship.
These are the faces of the vulnerable in society. It is especially in times like this that they feel cut off from society. So, the support to the over 200 Kayaye was to show some love and make them feel part of humankind. They came from Ayawaso East constituency, Ododio, Klotekoli, and Ablekuma. This has been regular with Professor Nana OwusuAjman to support, especially for a successful and peaceful Ramadan. She gave them counsel on the importance of spiritual emphasis for mankind, which is the time of increased worship, spiritual cleansing, good deeds, and acts of charity. Professor OwusuAjman encouraged them to remain steadfast in all their endeavors during this period of Ramadan. She mentioned that conflict, malice, bitterness, and anything that would drain them physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually should not be part of their thought processes. As a mother, she asked them to be patient with their children, take proper care of them, and bring them up as advised in the Good Book. A former Minister for Gender and Social Protection, Nana Oyebampo, also reminded them about the importance of observing and maintaining peace throughout the Ramadan period. She said it is a blessing to help when one has the means, especially so in this holy month of Ramadan.
You're watching Is Our Time to Make Way for Business Tuesday.
To you by MTN and Quick Credits. Good evening and welcome. I am OwusuAjman. The World Bank has lowered its annual global growth forecast for 2022 by almost 1 percentage point from 4.1% to 3.2%. The economic impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine is cited as a reason. President of the World Bank, Mr. David Malpass, says the largest single factor in the reduced growth forecast is a projected economic contraction of 4.1% across Europe and Central Asia. Other factors behind the slowdown in growth from January's forecast include higher food and fuel costs being borne by consumers in developed economies. Supply disruptions to Ukraine's agricultural exports are also cited as factors driving prices higher. These are partly the result of Western sanctions on Russian energy, which have driven up the price of oil and gas worldwide. Russia has also blocked Ukraine's major Black Sea ports, making it extremely dangerous for shipping vessels carrying grain and other products to travel the key maritime pathway connecting Ukraine to the rest of the world. Mr. Malpass indicated that the World Bank is preparing for a continued crisis response, given the multiple crises. Over the next few weeks, a discussion on a new 15-month crisis response envelope of about $170 billion to cover a period from April 2022 to June 2023 will be done.
The war in Ukraine and the COVID-19 lockdowns in China are further reducing the recovery path. Of concern, the repercussions are worsening the inequality and investor and consumer confidence.
This Ukraine crisis financing package is even larger than the one the World Bank organized as COVID-19 relief. The damage that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused to the global economy is said to be higher than the effect it has had on the economy of Ukraine and, to a lesser extent, to that of Russia. In early April, the World Bank predicted that Moscow's GDP would fall by 11.2% this year as a result of the sanctions. Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Monday insisted that Western powers had failed in what he called their blitz campaign of economic warfare against Russia. After falling sharply in the first weeks of the war, the Russian ruble has recovered much of its value, but economists say this recovery is an illusion created by strict internal currency controls imposed by the Kremlin, which have forcibly inflated the value of the ruble inside Russia. In an earlier recorded phone interview on the World Bank's reduced growth forecast, we spoke to an economist, Mr. Emmanuel Dakwa, who said the world underestimated the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war from the onset. A situation, he said, has led to many economies struggling. According to him, the time is apt for a purposeful dialogue between Ukraine, Russia and the West to bring an end to the war or risk further growth reductions.
In economic predictions, you make predictions based on certain assumptions. And if those assumptions are not in place, then you have to revise growth. And this is not the first time the World Bank or any other institution is revising growth target, because growth targets are ordinarily made based on certain assumptions. Growth projection of 3.2% from 4.1% is not too wide because of the magnitude of the impact of the Ukrainian-Russia war on global economies. I must say that the world really underestimated the impact of the Ukrainian-Russian war. And now the world is feeling the impact of it, including African countries and Ghana. Inflation is at a record high in most countries and in most continents, in America, in Asia, in Africa. Ghana, for instance, inflation has hit about 19.4%, highest in about 5 years. So, and this is coming at the back of higher energy prices that are soaring, and also food prices that are soaring. It has affected all economies of the world. And I think it's about time that the world has to come to a concerted effort to resolve the war so that the impact of it, especially the economic impact of it globally, will be minimized.
Let's have the interbank rates and some commodity prices. That's it for the business segment, proudly brought to you by MTN and Quick Credits. The energy segment is next.
Gas Pipeline Company Limited, WACO, has unveiled 2 monuments at its regulating and metering stations at Abuadze in the Shama district of the Western region as part of activities marking 10 years of commercial operation in Ghana. The monuments symbolize the exceptional achievements chalked up over the years in the sub-region.
The West African Gas Pipeline Company, WACO, transports natural gas to customers in Ghana, Nigeria, Benin and Togo in a safe, responsible and reliable manner to create value for its diverse stakeholders in the West Africa. The company, which was initially transporting natural gas from Nigeria to the thermal power plants at Abuadze in the Western region, now conveys gas to Tema through reverse flow courtesy, the Takoradi-Tema interconnection project. At a ceremony at Abuadze to mark 10 years of commercial operations, the managing director of WACO, Mr. Gregory Jemani, said the company will continue to play its part in line with the ECOWAS vision of transporting and promoting safe, clean, sustainable and secure power from gas supply sources to power the development of the sub-region.
10 years of continuous operational uncertainty means there has been indeed challenges over those 10 years. However, today WACO is an efficient and reliable transporter of natural gas to customers across Ghana, Togo, and Benin, promoting safe, clean, sustainable, and secure power for gas supply sources, now both from Nigeria and Ghana.
The Western Regional Minister, Mr. Kobina Ochredaku-Mensah, said the region is happy that stranded gas from the region is now being transported to the Tema enclave and that it is not a mistake that a regulating and metering station is at Abuadze in the Western region. Mr. Daku-Mensah urged management of WACO to do more to support the local communities.
The metering station, which currently has a capacity of 120 million scarves, compresses and redistributes the molecules from Nigeria and also serve as a receipt point for gas from the west of Ghana.
A teaching assistant at the UMAT School of Railways, Ms. Lenny Otu, said before the WACO scholarship she could not have gone to school and was grateful to the company for impacting many in the host communities.
The Energy Commission is reminding producers, traders and exporters of charcoal and fuel wood of the essence of following guidelines and standards in line with Ghana's energy policy and other regulations. The Energy Commission and other agencies are mandated to regulate the use of fuel wood and charcoal as a form of energy. Head of Public Affairs at the Energy Commission, Madame Ethel Mensah, says observing standards in charcoal production and export is critical to environmental sustainability.
We promote woodlots. We know we do a lot of charcoal exports. We ourselves in Ghana, you may say we don't have enough. We've been trying to get people to go on to LPG so that we will reduce the use of our woodlots in our forestries for charcoal. But the LPG is getting so expensive that we find ourselves going back to charcoal. Now, you can't just get up and go and produce charcoal in any parts of the forest. So the standards that are in place for people who produce and export charcoal is also the mandate of the Energy Commission.
Welcome to the health segment brought to you by kind courtesy Lufat. With the easing of restrictions post-COVID-19, health experts will still caution that it is important to adhere to oral health. An orthodontist, Dr. Novishi Akutu, is drawing attention to tooth decay. She says it is necessary to regularly check in with the dentist and brush our teeth twice a day to prevent tooth decay. Dr. Akutu says this must be a habit to avoid oral cancer.
Exactly what are we determining or defining as mask mouth? The first thing is that when people put on the mask, it becomes more difficult to breathe. So in order for people to breathe more easily, a lot of people started breathing through their mouth rather than their nose. The second thing is that usually when you're not wearing a mask, your tongue is quite elevated. Again, what people started doing when you have your mask on, myself included, which is why I know, is that you tend to open your mouth a bit and let your tongue drop. Now, those things are going to have certain effects. The first thing that's going to happen is that your mouth is going to feel quite dry, okay? You're going to get a dry mouth. Also, you are recycling carbon dioxide. So when you breathe in, you're meant to breathe in oxygen, you're meant to breathe out carbon dioxide. But now you have the mask there. So you're breathing back the carbon dioxide back in and out. And with that, you're having to breathe even heavier, which means that your mouth is becoming more and more dry. So what happens when your mouth becomes dry? We have to think of saliva as a water hose. And the whole point of saliva is to dilute everything that's in your mouth and then to jet wash the teeth. So you have to think about your car going to have a jet wash. Yes. Yeah. Now we have decreased the saliva. Everything is dry. So everything sticks to the teeth and the gums. So all of a sudden, all the food you eat, etc., is not being washed away. It's going to stay there. It's going to form a film. We had a lot of people who are now coming back for cleans, etc., where their gums have been bleeding, etc. So those are the sort of things that we are talking about. And if you couple that with the increase in snacking, we are now beginning to form the perfect environment for tooth decay. So we are just asking everybody to go back to pre-COVID habits, okay? You need to be doing your checkups. You need to get back into routines in terms of brushing your teeth. You need to complete all of your treatment plans so that we can literally try and get back on board with our oral health.
A UK-funded cancer research shows that being overweight substantially increases the risk of developing womb cancer. The research involved 120,000 women in the UK, US, and 5 other countries. It says keeping a healthy weight can cut the risk of 13 different cancers.
The CRUK study, led by a team at the University of Bristol, is one
of the largest into the link between fat and womb cancer. It looked at the effect of lifelong weight gain and uncovered two hormones, fasting insulin and testosterone, linked with obesity and womb cancer. The researchers hope scientists could in future use drugs to regulate levels of those hormones in people at risk of developing the cancer. One theory is fat cells can send out signals telling other cells to divide more often, which can lead to cancer. The growth of some breast cancers is linked to the female hormone estrogen, which fat cells also produce, for example. 1 in 36 UK women develops womb cancer, and 1 in 4 people diagnosed is premenopausal. The most common symptom is abnormal vaginal bleeding.
That's all in this segment, brought to you by kind courtesy Lufat.